The YouTube channel Amexem has a video entitled, "Did Moses Exist? A Historical Approach to the Biblical Moses." I'm going to show you he's talking about Akhenaten.
This is the Greek historian or chronicler of the 1st century BC. When he gives an account of the origins or the foundations of Judaism, which is the precursor to Christianity.
Catholicism is the precursor to Christianity, not Judaism. Notice Christianity's main focus is Jesus, which includes the white Madonna and child. The Catholics were about the black Madonna and child. Was there a religious revolution in Europe back in the day that changed things? Yes. Also, it's very difficult to find this Moses character outside the Bible, and his people are supposed to be known as the Israelites. Now, Akhenaten had a huge exodus, and he is historical and well known internationally at the time. People around the world would have taken notice about him leaving Thebes. It was a huge historical event, but it gets overshadowed by this Moses character who's difficult to find outside the Bible. So you can say Akhenaten's people were known as the Israelites that relocated within Kemet, not Canaan. Hence the lack of archaeological evidence. They didn't go in that direction. IS stands for Isis, his mother. Ra stands for Amenhotep III, his father. Amenhotep III was also known as a dazzling sun disk. He was definitely about the sun. El is Akhenaten, is Ra-El, the Trinity. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you how Akhenaten's religion is related to Catholicism.
Strabo says his understanding was that the prophet Moses was actually an Egyptian priest who basically left Egypt and went out of Lower Egypt, which of course would be in the north, and took his followers to begin to teach his understanding.
So Strabo is talking about Akhenaten, but he calls him Moses. Remember, Egypt is a Greek name that is nowhere near the word Kemet. The Greeks made up a name that they liked. They did the same thing for Akhenaten, i.e. Moses. Akhenaten did as Strabo described, and Akhenaten is definitely historical. He's outside the Bible, and he's in the Bible, but in the Bible, he's known as Moses.
The most prevalent of the accredited reports in regard to the temple at Jerusalem represents the ancestors of the present Judeans, as they are called, as Egyptians.
Again, Strabo is talking about Akhenaten and his people. Remember, they changed names. The people that believed in him were also known as Judeans, and more interesting, they happened to be Egyptians. Jerusalem means peace. Amenhotep III's reign was characterized by a period of peace, and he built temples. I also say that he is King Solomon in the Bible. His son is Akhenaten. So yes, Akhenaten is going to be internationally known and talked about, especially if he takes a good chunk of his people and leaves Thebes to go into the wilderness to find a new capital, a promised land.
Moses, namely, was one of the Egyptian priests and held a part of Lower Egypt, as it is called. But he went away from there to Judea.
We can consider Akhenaten a high priest, definitely with significant authority. He left Thebes to do his thing, and where he landed, others called it Judea, and they were known as the Judeans, according to the Greeks. Nowhere near Canaan. Hence, why there's no archaeological evidence of the biblical Moses, and it's difficult to track him outside the Bible because he went in a different direction. His exodus was a huge event internationally recognized.
Since he was displaced with the state of affairs there, he was accompanied by many people who worshiped the divine being.
The divine being is the Aten, which is the sun. Keep that in mind.
Connections to Akhenaten, people saying that, Akhenaten, who of course established the one God emphasis, and his priests then will flourish as long as he's alive, but then afterwards when he dies, they revert back.
So Akhenaten created Catholicism. His religion did not die, it expanded immensely. Remember, I told you that Akhenaten is the black child with the black Madonna. The Catholics venerated the black Madonna and child for centuries. That cannot be denied. Also remember, I told you that Akhenaten was about the sun. In ancient Kemetic culture, the Ankh, a symbol of life, is often depicted in association with the sun god Ra, which is Akhenaten's father, Amenhotep III. Ra is his other persona. Amenhotep III was also known as a dazzling sun disk, hence the Ra persona. And this can symbolize the sun's journey and the cycle of life, death and rebirth, the Ankh. The sun starts at its lowest point, rises in the east, goes to its highest point, sets in the west, and goes back to its lowest point. Circle of life. So the cross that we know comes from the Ankh, which was connected to the sun. You can find various crosses with a circle around it, which is the sun. Popes even show you that the cross represents the sun, and they are about sun worship. So did Akhenaten's religion die? No, it expanded immensely. Hence why the Black Madonna and Child is venerated and why the sun is venerated in the Catholic Church. Hence the cross. The cross represents the sun worship. Akhenaten's religion lives on, so people saying that it died don't know what they're talking about. Not to mention the fleur-de-lis, which is a huge part of Catholic history. The people of ancient Kemet valued the lotus and the lily. The key difference between lilies, specifically water lilies, and lotus plants lies in their growth habit. Water lilies have leaves and flowers that float on the water surface, while lotus plants have leaves and flowers that stand tall above the water. So, the so-called fleur-de-lis, which is a huge part of Catholic history, is a combination of the lily and the lotus. All comes back to ancient Kemet.
And some historians of religion and of ancient Egypt are saying meaning his priests are the ones that will ultimately be part of what becomes Judaism.
Not Judaism, Catholicism. Catholicism has vast amounts of influence in various parts of the world, not Judaism. You can actually say Judaism is Catholicism, but it's Catholicism because it includes others. Catholic means broad-minded, non-prejudiced, universal, etc., like a government. We know governments are extremely powerful. If you say Judaism, that means it's just for the people that left with Akhenaten because they were considered Judeans, according to the Greeks, who went to the Promised Land. Akhenaten's religion eventually encompassed many people, non-Judeans. He and his followers welcomed like-minded individuals. Doesn't matter where you come from. Again, look up the word Catholic in the dictionary or thesaurus.
Which is why there are these interesting parallels in things like circumcision, which is associated with being, Jewish, and yet circumcision was practiced by the Egyptians long before.
Yes, circumcision was practiced by ancient Kemet long before Akhenaten created his religion. Akhenaten's people, the Judeans, kept that practice, or the Israelites.
For he said and taught, talking about Moses, that the Egyptians were mistaken in representing the divine being by the images of beasts and cattle, as were also the Libyans.
So yes, Akhenaten did not like that the people were more involved in venerating their important ancestors or individuals because that's who the so-called gods were. Nothing supernatural. This guy is going to translate what Akhenaten feels about the gods. Listen carefully.
A message from Akhenaten to his people. A message they may not have wanted to hear.
Ah, well, here it is. At last, the inscription.
Can you translate it?
Yes, I think I can.
This is the most important column, which reads, "They have stopped, one after the other, whether of precious gems or gold or silver, I presume." He's speaking of the cult images of the gods.
That phrase, "the gods have stopped," that's a rather strange statement. What exactly is he saying there, then? The gods have stopped. What does that mean?
That's very odd, actually. It's very strange. The verb he uses to cease movement or to stop is what elsewhere in Egyptian text is used of what the sun never does. The sun keeps going around and around without ceasing.
The gods have stopped, which means their ancestors, real-life important people that the people of ancient Kemet venerated. I mean, we do that now. Michael Jackson, MLK, etc. So we are venerating them, and in a manner of speaking, they are gods, important people, celebrities, whatever. They're important. We still talk about them. We still revere them. They're the gods. That's how the people of ancient Kemet revered their ancestors. Okay, they're not supernatural. Akhenaten was pissed off about all that. He wanted people to focus on the sun. That is what we should revere or worship, because without the sun, we would not exist. Hence, the sun being God, according to Akhenaten.
And that the Greeks were also wrong in modeling gods in human form. For according to him, meaning Moses, God is this one thing alone that encompasses us all and encompasses land and sea and the thing which we call heaven or universe or the nature of all that exists.
Which is the sun.
So what Strabo was doing is saying, Moses was a priest of Egypt who became disgusted with representing Almighty God in these various forms.
Like you just heard, Akhenaten said the gods are dead. Your ancestors are gone. Focus on the eternal sun that never fails us. It always has its eye on us and allows us to continue to be. The sun is extremely powerful and extremely important to our existence. That cannot be denied. We know that the earth was not created in 6 days. It took a very long time for the earth to be nurtured into what it is now, and the sun is a huge part of that.
Strabo was reporting that this was his understanding as he's passing through and studying among the peoples in the first century, that this is my understanding of who the Judeans or the Jewish people are.
Yes, and Strabo is talking about Akhenaten's people, a hugely well-known historical figure with an Exodus story. The Moses story outside the Bible is difficult to locate because it's the Akhenaten story that has been manipulated